bringing you conservative conversations, commentary and content. And now you can access these important discussions in the format that you prefer. Watch, read, listen. You can watch our content on our website, familyfirst.nz. Simply click on the Watch tab and you'll see all our various programs that you can view. You can also watch these across our social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, TikTok, Threads and Blue Sky. Everywhere. If you'd prefer to listen while you go about your daily activities or are travelling in a vehicle, then click on the Listen tab and the latest content is there for you to listen to. You can also find us on Spotify under Family First NZ. And if you prefer to read our commentary, then click on the Read tab. We're increasing the frequency of our written commentary, focusing on the latest research and analysing the current news events which are relevant to families and society. We provide the insight and context which you won't get from the mainstream media. We're also now adding the full scripts of Family Matters and McBlog under the video link in our website, and also written summaries on our live stream shows so that you can read and digest the material at your own pace. Consume our conservative conversations in the way that best suits you. Watch, read, listen. Go to familyfirst.nz and join the conversation.
Good morning, everyone, and it is a good morning. Look, welcome to Solid Ground. It's lovely to have you join me here live in my little studio, my little treehouse studio, as regulars know. Solid Ground is where we talk the discussions of the day, which is actually a very awkward way of phrasing that, isn't it? To talk the discussions of the day. We look through what's happening here in New Zealand and around the world over the next 25 or 30 minutes, and from a good conservative, Christian, unapologetically so positioning, we talk about what we're seeing. Importantly, as the regulars know, and there's many of you, which is very humbling, this is a live show. So if you're on Family First Facebook page or its YouTube channel, your comments are coming live to me here in the studio, which I see a whole pile coming through, which I'll get to in a moment. If you're on other channels like Instagram or my Facebook page, you are very welcome. And your comments I'll get to read afterwards. But as I say, if you're on YouTube or Facebook for Family First, those comments are flying through, including Harrison's, who's noticed I've had a haircut. Yes, I found a bit of time. So good morning to everyone who's coming through. And as I say, being a live show, as I go through the various topics, your comments are really good. So I'm seeing Optimum Performance has given me a heads up on my sound. It's always been one of my weakest points, I think, on this. I'm forever fiddling with the sound, and I think I'm forever making it broken. Anyway, we'll keep working on that. And now I've lost my train of thought. I must admit, my mind has been elsewhere the last 12 or so hours. We've been babysitting and haven't done that for a long time. We're not babysitting a baby. Rach and I have a 3-month old in the house currently. It's one of the reasons why I'm looking quite, not quite, I am unshaven and the like this morning, is the baby's still sleeping, which is quite lovely. And so I just quietly left the house, as quiet as a mouse, to get up here. And, well, as I closed the door, the baby was not crying, which is fantastic. Again, I'll come back to that. I'm seeing all these comments, and I have to say, I see Optimum Performance just saying, why are your comments disappearing? I don't know from your end, but I clearly, because I'm reading them, can see them. And lots of people coming through on YouTube in particular, I see, and some there from Facebook, which is lovely. So Harrison, good morning. As everyone knows, I say a quick good morning to everyone that I can. We've got Mike there as well. Rosie asking about the baby. I'll report back on that in a moment. So, but basically all is going well. Jackie, good morning. Lovely to have you along. Catherine and Edmund there. Dean, I see as well. Good morning. I'm missing people. There are more comments coming in, which is pushing all the other ones down, and it keeps switching on me. White people there in whitepeople.k there in Hawke's Bay. Good morning. Lovely to have you along. Mike Lowry, lovely to have you along as well. We've got Bernice there. Good morning. Robin, gosh, we've got people everywhere. That is fantastic. Yeah, so very good. And then lots of comments. That's why there's lots of comments coming through about my sound. But look, good morning to you all. Lovely to have you along. As I say, we've been babysitting. Delightful. And I've got to say how Dennis, well, actually all of you, I'm beginning to get to know now. But Dennis, particular shout out to you. I know why you're down there in the hospital. So just thinking of you and the family. But as I say, for Rachel and I, we've had, was it Rachel and me? Well, there we go. Let's set the grammarians off. I think it's Rachel and me. Or I. Now I'm confusing myself. You can see I've got, gosh, I'd be a terrible father for an actual baby for weeks and months on end. One night and I've already lost the plot. But we've been looking after a beautiful 3-month-old. Just the most gorgeous little baby. But always what strikes me with young ones, young little humans, like this one's got reflux, which most babies do. But I'm always struck, of course, that the pain that the child will be feeling, whatever the correct term is, but also they don't understand what's happening. As adults, when something goes wrong, we understand it. It must be fascinating in the child's mind of whatever is and is not going on. But slept beautifully well. Believe this, pretty much all through the night. But Rachel's very experienced too, because I think at about 4 a.m. There was start of some crying. I was about to leap out of bed, being unexperienced at that age as I am. She said, no, just wait a little. I'll wait a little while. And Rosie, thank you. It is Rachel and I. Yes, I see. I'm key into grammarian stuff. Anyway, all over the show. As I say, partly it's been lovely looking after baby. Partly too, as I say, I've had a slightly dishevelled start to the morning because my normal routine has been quite interrupted because, did not want to bake that beautiful little baby. Now, look, we've got Political Playback tonight, and why I'm mentioning that is Bob and I will talk more around what's been surrounding, obviously, Chris Hipkins. That's probably the biggest political news of the recess at the moment. He and I will delve into that more, obviously. Chris did a stand-up earlier in the week, quite emotional from his side. The man looked quite exhausted, as you could imagine. So there's lots to talk about there. I think quite sensitively, actually. The issues themselves are very delicate, and it is, accusations or allegations. And there's going to be two sides to every story and all those sort of things. But importantly as well, when these things do come out, it is important to assess, because it does say something about the ethics, the morals, the character of an MP. And again, this is not just to do with Chris Hipkins. There's been lots of, if you will, questioning of the conduct of MPs from all across Parliament. I remember when I was there, and not myself, fortunately, but I remember, I think it was my last term in Parliament, there was just like one scandal with national MPs after another. And so, it's important the public do discuss this. But Bob and I will also be talking around how the media's handled it. In your opinion, have they been light touch on Chris Hipkins in a way they wouldn't have probably been if this was Christopher Luxon or a national MP? We can think of how the mainstream media dealt with everyone from Christine Rankin, one of our Straight Talk hosts, all the way through to Don Brash, the media barreling in. Was that fair? Why are they not doing this to Hipkins now? So there's much, as I say, much to discuss. And I can see comments coming through and Cooney that Hipkins has lied about everything. Well, there's another big part of this here. The commentary I've been seeing online from people is what he did during the COVID days, how he managed things as the Minister of Health, the Minister responsible for COVID and so forth, caused a lot of pain and angst for people. And so there's not a lot of sympathy out there for him. But then again, as I popped out this morning, before coming into the studio, saw some people on the street, funnily, who still think I'm in Parliament, which is quite amusing. I had to burst that bubble. But talking about how, his press stand-up actually possibly might have saved his leadership simply because of the way he handled it. So again, we'll talk about that tonight on Political Playback. And I see Edmund's noting too, that was the moment when the government was the only source of truth, again in the COVID days. I think one of the things which really annoyed people, certainly annoyed myself. Hey look, good news as I prattle on here. Good news coming out of Scotland. This was last night. As I was just wrapping up for the evening actually, and literally wrapping the baby up, we've got, it is, for Rachel and I, we're just actually quite delighted. There is just something about new life and a cute little 3-month-year-old. They are just quite delightful in a little flax basket and everything. Very, very cute. But as I was wrapping up last night and wrapping up baby, this news came through that the Scottish Parliament has voted against euthanasia. Now this is a big win. And it needs to be celebrated because we know other jurisdictions, including our own, of course, have. So I've just actually, Rosie, it's caught my eye, and I think it actually nails where a lot of people are at. I have sympathy for Chippy's kids. That's Chris Hipkins' kids, but none for him. Yeah, and I think that's probably where a lot of people are going to sit. But this is coming back to Scotland. Very good news. So the Scottish Parliament voted yesterday and has voted against having euthanasia laws. Very significant, obviously, for Scotland, but it may well have an influence on the British Parliament. So the UK Parliament is also debating this at the moment, in particular in the House of Lords. And I think I reported about 2 weeks ago, it's likely that bill before the House of Lords around euthanasia will also fail. It'll fail for procedural reasons on the basis that the Parliament's running out of time to actually discuss it. However, this Scottish development will surely influence the Lords and the MPs down at Westminster in the British Parliament. They go, if our Scottish colleagues have said no to it as an euthanasia, so should we. So we can celebrate it, right down here, down under. We can be very pleased what the Scots have done in this case. But at the same time, we know what it's like with the pro-euthanasia crowd. Same like the pro-abortion crowd and the pro-drug crowd. They don't give up. They'll just keep pushing. So we just got to be vigilant. But for now, the pro-life movement in Scotland and around the UK can be pleased with its efforts. So I'm really pleased to share that. And also an update, because I shared this on Tuesday. Just going to take a cup of coffee before I lose my voice. Still seeing comments coming through about people removing comments. I can only one, I actually am not on YouTube and can't control it. And two, if I'm seeing your comments like those, I'm certainly seeing them here in the studio, but I will go and look at the YouTube settings afterwards. I actually am no expert in it, but yes, I can see people at the moment asking, where are my comments? Well, they're in front of me, otherwise I wouldn't know you were asking about your comments. And good morning to David. Hey, look, on Tuesday I talked about this lady. This is the new Archbishop of Canterbury, Sarah Malale, I think it's how we say her name. And I was rightly having a crack at her because there's an abortion vote in the House of Lords this week. And as of Tuesday morning, so 2 days ago, she was not going to attend. Instead, she was going to be part of a 2-day pilgrimage or walk from London to Canterbury, as the headline suggests. But there's been an update since then. I think the pressure's been piled on her. She is now going to attend the House of Lords and vote. Now, we would hope, as the Archbishop of Canterbury, that she'll be voting against an extreme abortion law that's been pushed through the Parliament there in the UK. It's allowing abortion right up till birth, a horrific notion in the very least. But this is a step forward, which is positive, very, very positive, that she's going to be there. We'll all be watching how she votes. I would hope that, of course, you'll vote against it. But we'll update you on that. But I thought I'd better let you know, after rightly having a crack at her on Tuesday for not attending, choosing not to be there. She's had an about face, which is good. There's a number of other Anglican bishops, though, who have not yet confirmed whether they're attending the vote or not, which still, to me, is shocking, because, as I mentioned on Tuesday, not all, but a number of Anglican bishops sit in the House of Lords as of right. And you would think, wouldn't you, that a vote on the likes of abortion would have the clergy turning up. Okay, tax reform, maybe not so much. But on these matters, you would think they should appear. None of them are going to be listening to this podcast or this live show, but I hope they do turn up. It's one of their key responsibilities. And other than being literally stuck in hospital, they should be there to exercise that vote. And others are now asking, well, doesn't New Zealand have abortion up till birth that Jacinda put in? Yeah, we do, sadly. We do. She slipped that in. She slipped that law through just as we were going into the COVID lockdown. So that was back in 2020. And I think I've got a stat here in front of me, because I'm not going to talk about it today. Here we go. Let's see if this magic works. These are actually abortion figures since 2020. And I think there's almost a 33% or 34% rise, so 1/3 more abortions in New Zealand since 2020. We know that there's about 8 botched abortions leading to a live birth in New Zealand. I think that's every year. I'm probably getting some of my stats on that one wrong. Part of me is actually, I think it might be 8, but quite disturbing. So that's an increase in abortions. We've seen a 60% increase in late-term abortions. We know that babies are being born alive after a botched abortion and just left to die because the Parliament didn't accept my amendment that they needed to be given medical care. So it's a pretty disturbing situation, I have to say. Yeah, pretty disturbing. But as I'm jumping around on topics today, and someone's asking here how many are sex-based abortions. We don't know that. We know that it's happening, and it's going to be happening more as different cultures come to New Zealand who have a preference for boys. But so that's the first point. It's happening. Sex-based abortions are happening. Secondly, as we have new migrants from cultures which accept sex-based abortions or preference boys strongly over girls, we know it will happen more. But one of the things that Jacinda did when she passed the law is have very, very light reporting. So we don't have those stats because they don't report on it, which is, well, I think very telling. It's the same when they put through the euthanasia laws, that the reporting is quite light, because obviously if you're not reporting on things, then people like myself and Bob and your good selves can't comment on it. So it's a pretty standard tactic. But keeping on some good news, as I say, good news coming out of Scotland. They've voted against assisted dying. Good news that the Archbishop of Canterbury is actually going to attend the Parliament and vote on an abortion law. And then this came out yesterday, coming to New Zealand, from Winston Peters, informing that New Zealand is not going to sign up to the new articles or the new aspects of the World Health Organization Pandemic Treaty. I think this is an excellent decision by the government. I think it's primarily been driven from Winston Peters' side. I think it's one of his promises. People can correct me on that. I suspect more a New Zealand first aspect, but of course the government as a whole has agreed to it, and so kudos to Acton National to the extent they didn't get in the way, but a really good decision. So you may or may not know, of course, there's the you will know, there's the World Health Organization, but over the years and decades, it's really tried to expand its powers. So where it started many years ago from being a body where you sort of helped coordinate and facilitate discussion, it's become more and more controlling. And we certainly saw that during the COVID times. And as a response to COVID, they set up a pandemic treaty. to try and facilitate even more cooperation between countries. But Article 61 of these international health regulations basically would say that in future pandemics, the World Health Organization would lead and guide and pretty much tell countries what to do. And rightly in this case, New Zealand's government, Winston Peters, announcing it here on X, have told them to bugger off, that we're not going to sign and agree to that. And as he says in the middle paragraph, we will make the decisions for ourselves. Any decisions, he says, about the health of Kiwi should be made from Wellington and not Geneva. And that's my view as well. The sovereignty of our country is important. I have no problem of engaging with global bodies, but I don't like global bodies telling us how to live, thanks very much. Whether it's WHO, whether it's the United Nations. Both who are becoming quite captured in a number of areas. I shared on Tuesday, of course, that United Nations video about what is a woman, which the United Nations says a woman is whatever people want to think it is, which is so nonsensical that it's beyond stupid. But these are some of the topics, issues, which the likes of the United Nations are forcing through. And of course, the World Health Organization is ideologically captured around trans issues, abortion as well. So we don't really need to have much to do with them, and doubly so around a pandemic. We can rightly cooperate, we can ask, we can talk, we can chat, but we do not have to be directed by them. So I think this is a good decision by Winston Peters and by the New Zealand government. And yeah, as I say, I just think it's a positive step forward. But I want to underline that final point I just mentioned. It doesn't mean we can't cooperate, we can't listen, we can't discuss. I think that's actually quite important, particularly if you are in a global pandemic. God forbid if we ever have that again. But we should be able to make decisions in our country ourselves. I think that's just fundamentally important. And I saw it a lot when I was in Parliament, actually, where people would come and say, well, the UN says this and the UN says that. And it's like, and? Interesting. Just because the UN says it doesn't mean that we have to follow it through. And I see lots of people saying, good on Winston here, which is lovely. Yeah. Again, I think I'm right to say this was driven from New Zealand first. I doubt the likes of National would have been racing into this or ACT. I could be wrong. Happy to be corrected on that. But I think this is very much a Winston thing, including the way that he announced it. The other thing I just want to quickly chat on is a press release we put out from Family First earlier in the week around an App Store accountability bill. There's a mouthful for you. So, there's lots of talk at the moment about banning under 16-year-olds from accessing social media. And so Bob and I and the team have been working on a draft bill here in New Zealand, which we're calling the App Store Accountability Bill. And so we tabled that, or published that, and sent it to media on, I think, Tuesday. Now, won't surprise you, none of the mainstream media have come to talk with us. We sort of get used to that. We talk a lot here on Solid Ground, Daybreak and elsewhere, how the mainstream media, we know it's very, very biased, but basically just won't touch certain topics, certain groups, because it just doesn't suit them. So while the media talk a lot about what's happening overseas around social media bans, as they call them, when Family First, in this case, puts forward actually a really viable idea, a really viable concept that's been used in a number of US states at the moment, we hear crickets. But we're sending it to the MPs as well. We think it's an exceptionally good idea for governments. And I see some comments about digital ID, so I better address that in a moment. So the idea of the App Store bill is to work within an existing choke point around technology. So pretty much all of us have phones, cell phones, and we get apps on those phones through one of these two stores. I mean, there's a few other alternatives, but most people either go to the App Store from Apple or Google Play. And whether you've remembered or not, when you first signed up, you have to actually give quite a bit of detail about who you are already. And so you begin to see how an App Store accountability bill will work here in New Zealand, which basically says that anyone who is accessing the App Store, or rather signs up for an App Store or Google Play, needs to age estimate or be age estimated or age verified. Now I'll come back to that because that's not digital ID. I know it can still be controversial for some, but we're already giving that information out. And so the key part, or two pillars, is one, the age verification, and two, for those who are under 16, you then need parental consent if you are going to download apps. So you're able to tie your child's App Store or Google Play account to your own as a parent. So it maintains parental control, which I think from a family first perspective, certainly mine, is a real positive, because I don't want to see the heavy hand of government come through. And I was quite disappointed and frustrated by the likes of the Select Committee report, the New Zealand Select Committee report about 2 weeks ago around this. There were some positive points, but interestingly, the Select Committee never looked at App Store laws around the world. As I say, a number of US states have implemented the laws there. They're being challenged in the likes of Texas, but in other states like Utah, for example, Idaho, they're working. So the Select Committee completely ignored that, which makes me concerned that they have not really looked properly, fully and deeply at all the issues in that space. They seem more wedded to the Australian approach, which is like a whack-a-mole. Oh, we're going to ban this app and this app and this app and this social media site, but not that one. That's why I call it a whack-a-mole. I don't think it's a good idea. And the other is they're talking about we need sort of an internet czar, an e-safety commissioner. It's like, oh, please, give us a break. We don't need more commissioners, and we do not need busybodies going around telling us what we can and cannot access on the internet, because that's what will happen. It won't stop just with children. Any commissioner that a government appoints will start actually trying to police what we as adults do. So we've tabled this bill for MPs to look at, the media to look at. As I say, it targets the app stores. If you're going to download, you need to set up an account, as we already do, and you need to be age verified. And I just want to finish on that point, because age verification or age estimation is not digital ID. Digital ID is far more comprehensive and deep. An age estimation, for example, really is just a very simple packet of data that gets fired. In this case, let's say Google Play. It says, hey, Simon is over 16, or oh, he's under 16. Doesn't need to know my exact date of birth, doesn't even need to know the exact year per se. So there's ways to deal with this. Lisa makes a good point though, and I'll go through some comments before I wrap up, because I can see it's almost 8. And back to baby. It's a good point actually. Kids are more better read that properly. Parents are more likely to be technologically challenged than their children. Yeah, I think that's right. But I think, particularly around things like app stores, I think it's relatively straightforward. As I say, linking your kid's account to your own, I think, is helpful. So if little Johnny or Mary who's trying to download something that they want, you can of course authorize it. If you go, you know what, I actually don't want you on TikTok, my 9-year-old on TikTok, you can say no, we're not authorizing that. Undoubtedly there'll be people who find workarounds, so we just have to live with that. But it's the same as selling alcohol and gambling and all lots of other things. We've got rules around to try and send a signal, but we know it's not always perfectly followed, but that's just what we accept. Dean's noting, if you have a smartphone, you're already digitally ID'd. Yeah, I would want to delve into that more deeply, but I think Dean, as I understand it, touched on a good point. We already give over enormous amounts of data. But for me, that's not an argument to embrace digital ID. That's something I am nervous about for a variety of reasons. But as I said, age estimation is not the same. Optimum Performance is asking, what about parents being parents? I think that's really important. I suppose for Bob and I, as only at Family First, we see big tech, though, having so much power and influence that it's very hard, even for well-meaning, well-intentioned parents, to be able to, be the parents they want to be to their kids in this tech space. It's just like so overwhelming pressure from the big tech companies. So anything we can do to put a bit of pressure on them, a bit of responsibility, the tech companies. And again, that's why I quite like the App Store bill, not just because we drafted it, but it does allow parents to be the mediators, again, not the government, which I think is a good thing. HB is saying they like the new presenter. Now, that'll be talking about Samuel Bilton. In fact, if you're interested in knowing a bit more about Samuel, so he's now hosting something called Counterculture and his own show called Built on Truth, a little bit of a pun there. Check out my latest Family Matters, dropped yesterday. Learn a little bit more about Samuel. He is fantastic, which is great. So he's got a fascinating career. In fact, he was briefly with the Army Reserve. He talks about his time looking after the MIQs, and then he went on to be a police prosecutor. He's actually had a lot to do with the alcohol and drug courts as a police prosecutor, I might add. So go and check out that, Family Matters. You can also go on to RCR and my latest chat with Tanya Unkovic, which was really, really good. Well, I found it quite good. As I say, there is Counterculture. This is the new show. It's a much younger group of people talking the issues of the day. Really recommend you check that out. And a final reminder as we cross over to 8 o'clock, Political Playback. Bob and I will be back 5 o'clock today. There's much to talk about. There's a new poll out, which is slightly better news for Chris Luxon in the National Party, only slightly, but lots to talk about there. Obviously, what's been happening with Chris Hipkins, how the media in particular are handling that. Look, guys, there is just no shortage, as always, of content. So I'm going to go back to that little 3-month-year-old. We've got him for a little bit longer. We'll see if he is still asleep. Well, let's see. We can report back on that later. But guys, as always, it's been lovely to have you on the show. Thank you for being part of Solid Ground. This little, actually it's not little. Actually, I'm being quite humbled by just how large this community is. It's been great to have you here. See you tonight, 5 o'clock on Political Playback, or next Tuesday.